I never imagined I'd trade boardrooms for baby bottles, but that's exactly what happened the day I held my daughter's tiny hand for the first time. I'm Olivia Walker, and before Emily was born, I was on track to become the youngest senior account director at Grayfield Marketing. My days were a whirlwind of pitch decks, client dinners, and praise-laden emails. I thrived on the energy of fast-paced deadlines and the camaraderie of my team. Each morning, I'd slip into my tailored blazer with a sense of purpose, knowing I was shaping campaigns that mattered. When Daniel surprised me with the positive pregnancy test, my heart fluttered with equal parts excitement and fear. He was already working 50-hour weeks at the law firm, and I knew the unspoken sacrifice that lay ahead if I chose to pause my career. But from the moment I saw Emily's heartbeat flickering on the ultrasound screen, I felt an overwhelming pull. I wanted to be there for every milestone, every scraped knee, every bedtime story. I pictured our little family together, and I believed I could manage it all. In those final months at the agency, I burned the midnight oil to tie up loose ends. I coached my junior colleagues through presentations, handed off stable accounts, and crafted a detailed transition plan. When I walked into my manager's office to hand in my resignation, my voice was steady, but my heart pounded. "I'm pregnant," I announced, "and I want to be there for my family full-time." He paused, then nodded, offering a tight smile. "Congratulations, Olivia." "You'll be missed," he said, but I saw relief flicker behind his eyes, relief that I wouldn't be chasing that next promotion. We sold our chic downtown condo at a small profit, packed up our lives into storage crates, and moved into Daniel's childhood home in the suburbs. The house was warm and familiar. Yellow tulips on the front porch, a creaky oak staircase, framed photos of Daniel as a boy riding his red bicycle. On my first morning as a stay-at-home mom, I brewed coffee in mismatched mugs and unpacked baby clothes, soft as whispers. I arranged Emily's pastel nursery with care, lining her crib with crocheted blankets and hanging a mobile of paper cranes above. Those early weeks felt like magic. Emily's newborn yawns melted my exhaustion. Her tiny fists grasped my finger and I swore I could feel her heart pulsing through her delicate skin. Daniel kissed my forehead late at night, whispering, "Thank you for doing this." I basked in his gratitude, convinced that motherhood would be a seamless extension of my ambition. But reality seeped in through the cracks. The satisfaction of closing a big deal was replaced by the grunt of cleaning spit up from my blouse. My carefully crafted to-do lists grew longer, grocery runs, doctor appointments, playgroup schedules. And yet everything felt perennially unfinished. I found myself waking at dawn not to brainstorm ideas, but to frantically fold laundry before the baby woke. The neighborhood moms I'd once admired on Instagram now seemed like seasoned veterans, effortlessly balancing strollers and lattes, while I struggled just to keep up. Still, I clung to my decision. Every time exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me, I reminded myself of that flickering ultrasound, of the promise I had made to be present. I told myself that this sacrifice, this pivot from marketing strategist to full-time caregiver, was the greatest career move I'd ever make. After all, no accolade compared to the smile on Emily's face when she saw me walk into the room. And so, I pressed on, determined to excel at motherhood the way I had excelled at my job. Little did I know that the very choice I celebrated would soon become the crucible testing every ounce of my resilience. I settled into the rhythm of our small suburban life with resolve, convinced that sacrifice would feel rewarding. But day after day, the joy I'd anticipated slipped through my fingers like sand. Mornings began before dawn. I'd tiptoe into Emily's nursery, swaddle her gently, and rock her until her breathing evened out. By the time the sun rose, I was already bleary-eyed, brewing my third cup of coffee and scanning the day's to-do list: groceries, laundry, preschool drop-off, bills, cleaning, dinner prep. Every task felt urgent yet never complete. At first, Daniel praised my efficiency. "You're the best mom," he'd murmur while pouring orange juice, his fingers brushing mine in a brief, comforting squeeze. Those small moments were oxygen to my soul. But as weeks passed, his morning smiles became curt nods. He'd kiss Emily's head, then rush out the door, phone in hand, without so much as a thank you. I learned to swallow the sting, telling myself he was under pressure at work. The weekends offered no reprieve. Saturday mornings, I'd tidy the kitchen before Daniel rolled out of bed, then pack us into the minivan for errands, the grocery store, the post office, the hardware store for that leaky faucet I'd meant to fix 2 weeks ago. I'd chase Emily through endless aisles while scrambling to cross everything off my mental checklist. By the time we got home, I was running on adrenaline and anxiety. My creative passions, writing in my journal, sketching dream home layouts, became abandoned hobbies. Every brush of guilt made me put down the pen. "You're earning your keep here," Daniel would remind me when I confessed how much I missed my work. "Enjoy this time." But enjoy felt like a commandment that I perpetually failed to follow. Visits from my in-laws only heightened the pressure. My mother-in-law arrived unannounced one Thursday afternoon, arms folded, surveying the living room with exasperation. "Don't you think this place could use a vacuum?" she quipped, nodding toward the pale carpet dotted with crumbs. I forced a smile, mumbled an apology, and hurried to the closet for the vacuum cleaner I'd hidden there like a dirty secret. As I worked, her voice followed me. "When I was raising kids, I never let the house look like this." I wanted to disappear. Inside, a storm brewed. I caught myself recoiling at the baby monitor's chime, dreading the countless interruptions to my carefully timed schedule. I counted Emily's naps as if they were precious blocks of me time, jealously guarding those minutes. Yet guilt flared each time I prioritized myself, leaving a pile of stuffed animals and a cranky toddler in my wake. At night, once Emily drifted into sleep, I'd collapse onto the couch, clutching my phone like a lifeline. I longed for a message from an old colleague, some sign that I still mattered outside these walls. Instead, I scrolled through LinkedIn updates boasting promotions and conferences, each notification another reminder of opportunities slipping away. Daniel's support evaporated almost entirely. He stopped asking how I was, assuming that if I didn't complain, everything must be fine. When he did notice my exhaustion, dark circles under my eyes, the way I stifled a yawn at dinner, he'd sigh and say, "You chose this." His words were like cement boots, anchoring me to a role I was drowning in. One evening, I tried to reclaim a fragment of myself. I lit candles in the bathroom, ran a hot bath scented with lavender, and sank beneath the surface, closing my eyes to the weight pressing down on my chest. For a moment, the silence was healing. But as the water cooled, my thoughts returned: unpaid labor, invisible sacrifices, a career I'd left hanging in mid-air. I emerged from the bath, drained and hollow, and realized I was losing more than energy, I was losing myself. Yet still I persevered. Because to admit defeat felt like betraying my own promise, that family would always come first. Little did I know the erosion of my spirit would set the stage for a reckoning more fierce than any deadline I'd ever faced. The cracks in my resolve widened until they became chasms I could no longer ignore. Mornings blurred into nights as I juggled Emily's needs, household duties, and the ghosts of my former ambitions. Sleep evaded me, my mind raced through unfinished laundry, looming doctor's appointments, and the empty page of my abandoned journal. My back ached from bending over cribs and dishpans, my throat was raw from repeating the same lullaby until my voice cracked. Yet every evening, I forced myself to smile for Daniel's sake, concealing the exhaustion that weighed down my bones like lead. One Wednesday began like any other, but quickly unraveled. The baby monitor crackled before dawn. Emily was hungry. As I changed her diaper on the living room rug, I knocked over my lukewarm cup of coffee, the scalding liquid searing my hand and splattering across a stack of overdue bills. I cradled Emily in one arm, mopped the mess with the other, and whispered apologies to the porcelain mug that shattered on the floor. My phone buzzed with a reminder: grocery pickup in 10 minutes. I texted back, running late. The guilt stabbed me. By mid-morning, Emily refused to nap. She clung to me, wailing, while the dog barked at a delivery driver at the door. I opened it to find a fresh set of mail, reminders of a conference I'd been invited to speak at, one I'd declined. My heart clenched. I closed the door on the world and retreated to the kitchen, stuffing sandwiches for lunch as I counted out forks and plates in a haze. Each chore felt Sisyphean. No sooner did I finish one task than another appeared. The breaking point arrived in the late afternoon. I'd promised Emily a bath and story before dinner, but the pipes sputtered and the water turned icy cold. Frustration exploded from me in a torrent of tears and shouted words. "I give up," I yelled, dropping the towel and collapsing onto the tiled floor, baby cradled in my arms. My shoulders heaved, the weight of 10 years of unacknowledged labor pressed on me. Daniel appeared at the doorway, briefcase in hand, eyes wide at the scene. He stood silent for a moment, watching the steam rise from my tears. Then his expression hardened. "You chose this," he said, voice flat. "If you can't even run a bath without losing it, you're just lazy." His words landed like stones against my chest. Laziness. The label cut deeper than any criticism I'd ever faced in the boardroom. I stared at him, stunned. The sobs slowed, replaced by a cold fury. How dare he? I had sacrificed promotions, paychecks, even personal identity, all for this family. And now my collapse was proof of my failure rather than evidence of my limits. Daniel said nothing more. He turned and walked away, leaving me crumpled on the floor, Emily clutching my blouse as if to say, "It's okay, Mama." In the hush that followed, I felt a strange clarity. The facade I had upheld, of the ever-cheerful, self-sacrificing mother, fractured in that moment. I realized that burnout isn't a moral failing, it's the body and mind's alarm bell. And ignoring it only makes the fall harder. As I gathered myself off the cold tiles, I understood that something had to change. Not just for Emily's sake, but for my own survival. A week after the bathtub incident, I tried to pretend everything was fine. I bought a new picnic blanket, packed sandwiches, fruit, and Emily's favorite chocolate chip cookies, and even remembered the lemonade. I envisioned a perfect afternoon, Daniel smiling as he tossed Emily in the air, the three of us laughing under the summer sky. Sunday arrived bright and warm. I loaded our minivan at dawn, blanket, tote bag, insulated cooler, feeling a flicker of hope. Emily bounced in her car seat, humming to her favorite nursery rhyme. Daniel, dressed in his crisp shirt and slacks, gave me a quick peck on the cheek. "Thanks for doing this," he said, eyes already on his phone. At the park, everything began to unravel. The cooler latch broke, spilling ice water across the sandwiches. Emily, startled, began to cry, and I scrambled to wipe off soggy bread. Daniel disappeared to take an urgent call, promising to be right back. He never returned. 20 minutes later, I heard the muffled echo of his voice from across the soccer field. "I'm in a meeting, can't talk now." My shoulders tightened. I spread the damp blanket, wiped the cookies dry, and tried to coax Emily into a nibble. But she was fussy, dropping her teddy bear in the grass. I bent to pick it up and felt the weight of my exhaustion crash into me. My vision blurred with tears. When Daniel finally stepped away from his phone, I confronted him. "You promised you'd be here," I said, voice shaking. He glanced at the messy spread and back at me. "I have work," he snapped. "You chose to stay home." The words ignited something in me I thought had long since burned out. "I chose to stay home for this family," I shot back. "But I'm not your maid, and I'm sure not lazy." I felt heat rise in my chest as all the swallowed frustrations poured out. I told him about the sleepless nights, the hidden tears, the gnawing guilt I carried every moment I wasn't perfect. Daniel stood in stunned silence, folding his arms. Around us, families played and picnicked, unaware of our collapse. I clutched Emily, whose tears echoed mine, and I realized, this breaking point was more than anger, it was clarity. I packed the cooler, lifted Emily into her seat, and walked away from the picnic spot. Daniel followed half a step behind, apologizing in a low voice, but I didn't turn back. As we drove home, Emily's head rested on my shoulder, and I whispered, "I love you," promising myself that my next steps would honor both of us. In that moment, I understood that admitting I couldn't do it all wasn't failure, it was the first act of truly protecting my family and myself. The morning after the disastrous picnic, I woke before dawn with a single thought: I had to change something, anything, before I completely unraveled. Quietly, I crept to my home office corner, the one I'd set up months ago but never used, and dug out my old laptop. My fingers trembled as I typed a message to Claire Henderson, my mentor from Greyfield Marketing. "Claire, I'm back. Looking for part-time consulting opportunities. Can we talk?" Within the hour, Claire called. Her voice, though warm, encouraging, and utterly non-judgmental, restored a flicker of hope. We spent the morning sketching out how I could leverage my expertise on a flexible schedule, crafting social media strategies, advising small startups on branding, even presenting workshops on client presentations. She insisted I wasn't abandoning my family by working, rather, I was modeling balance for Emily. That afternoon, I presented the idea to Daniel. He listened, arms crossed, eyes guarded. I explained a simple schedule, 3 mornings a week, 2 hours each, while a trusted babysitter watched Emily. "I need to feel useful again," I said, voice steady. His jaw clenched. "I don't want to argue," he replied. "Just show me it works." I agreed, relief and nerves tangling in my chest. The first week was awkward. I scrambled to finalize proposals while Emily fussed in the next room. I reminded myself to breathe, to lean on the babysitter at least twice as much as I thought I needed. When Claire's first client approved my strategic roadmap, my first win in months, I felt my old confidence stir. I closed my eyes and let myself savor it. Over the next 3 months, I took on 2 more small clients. I learned to batch tasks, drafting campaign outlines during Emily's morning nap, holding video calls while Daniel handled lunch. The house didn't stay spotless, and that was okay. I reminded myself daily that my worth wasn't measured in gleaming floors but in purpose and passion. Daniel's attitude shifted too. He began to notice the difference in my energy, my laughter returned at bedtime, the late-night sketches made way for quiet smiles. One evening, he found me reviewing a pitch deck at 8 p.m. and, without a word, poured me a glass of wine and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you," he said softly. In that moment, I saw how my reclaiming a part of myself benefited all of us. By the time Emily turned 3, I'd secured a part-time contract with a boutique firm specializing in eco-product launches. I worked 2 days in their airy downtown office. Coffee breaks with new colleagues, brainstorming sessions that left my mind buzzing. On the other days, I advised clients from my sunlit corner at home, always mindful of the balance I'd fought so hard to restore. Our family evolved with me. Daniel started pitching in without reminders, he mastered laundry and dishes, baked pancakes on Sunday mornings, and even signed up for take your kid to work days so Emily could see me in my element. She'd press her cheek against our office window, beaming, while I introduced her as my little boss. Now, standing at the intersection of motherhood and career, I realized that I never had to choose one over the other. Sacrifice isn't about giving up your dreams, it's about reshaping them. Today, I'm not just Olivia Walker, former marketing director or stay-at-home mom, I'm a living example for Emily of self-respect, resilience, and the power of honest conversations. And when someone next calls me lazy, I'll smile, knowing that I've worked harder than ever, on my family, on myself, and on building a life where both can flourish.